Everyone's been asking us, Wes, to talk about all of the different SKUs that the different whiskey producers make.
Right.
We did it for Buffalo Trace.
Sure did.
Everyone loved it. Mm-hmm. So now we're going to talk about what's the difference between Wild Turkey and Russell's Reserve. And we're going to do a full Wild Turkey mash bill analysis, so stick around.
Gobble, gobble. All right, folks, so let's start like we always do. A disclaimer, right? Because we got a lot of haters out there, and while we love you, you don't love us, obviously. So we want to let you know that all of this information we got off of their collective websites, okay? We are not Wild Turkey experts, okay? We love it. We've drank a lot of it, but we're going to rely on what they put out there in their media to shoot it straight here. So if you have an issue with it, you can blame them.
Yeah, there might be some releases that we don't talk about. Just because it wasn't listed on any of their websites, and that's going to be okay.
Yeah.
So our channel's kind of known for giving some little factoids in history, so let's talk about Wild Turkey's history.
Yeah.
It started in 1940 on a turkey hunting trip. It was a Austin Nichols executive, and he had taken his friends out for a turkey hunting trip. At the time, they were a non-distiller producer sourcing whiskey. He brought some whiskey, and his friends loved it, and they kept asking for more of that Wild Turkey bourbon.
Yeah.
And by 1942, they launched the brand Wild Turkey. So Austin Nichols is a New York-based company, and what's interesting is they operated from 1942 all the way through 1971 without owning a distillery.
Yeah.
But they bought the JTS Brown Distillery in 1971, which is who had been producing their product on contract. But in 1980, just 9 years later, they sold the Wild Turkey brand to, I can't even say the name, Pernod?
Pernod?
No.
Bernard?
Pernod?
Pernod.
Pernod?
Pernod.
Pernod Ricard?
Pernod Ricard.
However you say it.
Yeah.
It's French.
That's an awesome name.
It's an awesome name. Then they sold it to Campari Group in 2009, who currently owns it.
Yeah, and not nearly as cool of a name either.
So the cool thing about the Campari purchase is that it came with some new capital.
Yeah.
So in 2011, they opened up a new distillery and visitor center, which is beautiful.
It is awesome.
And they have some special bridge that you got to drive on to get there. That's like 1 and 2 on the whole planet or something. It's really beautiful. But they spent $100 million on the renovation. So.
And I didn't realize it wasn't that long ago, 10, 11 years ago, right?
Yeah, it was 2011.
2011. So, I mean, while the distillery is beautiful, you think with such a rich history that Wild Turkey has, that thing has been around for a lot longer than that, but that's pretty cool.
No. And the cool thing is it was designed for you, the visitor, to be able to come and see.
Yeah. A
lot of the older distilleries, I mean, they're still set up like manufacturing facilities, and the tours are not as inviting as something like Wild Turkey. But
yeah.
So Wild Turkey's bourbon mash bill is 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley. Quick trivia question: why 12% malted barley? Do you have any idea?
Because it's got to equal 100%.
It does. Yeah, that is a good reason.
Winner.
The answer I was looking for was because 12% malted barley is the minimum malted barley required to not have to use enzymes in your cook. So you got to convert all of that the complex carbohydrates in the other grain into simple sugars for the yeast, and 12% is the magic number where you don't need any outside enzymes.
Yeah.
Wild Turkey's trying to do it naturally, and we need to respect that. So I like that.
I will tell you that mash bill right there, that 75, 13, that's like right in my wheelhouse.
That's your wheelhouse.
That is, man.
It's enough spice to make it exciting, but not so much.
I'm not an overly spice guy. I don't love huge high rise, and I typically love that 75% corn or more. Which is probably why I love a lot of the bourbons that come with that mash bill, right? You've got your Wild Turkey and the Long Branch, which I haven't had as much of that as I have these others, but still a delicious whiskey. The small batch, Russell's Reserve, Master's Keep, all of those have that bourbon mash bill that, again, hits my palate just right.
And they have a handful of flavored offerings that they make out of that mash bill as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And what about the Wild Turkey 101? Is it that's the same one? It's just that 101 proof?
Yeah, everything that has the Wild Turkey name on it has that same mash bill.
Awesome.
Hey, nice hat.
Hey, thanks. Nice lanyard.
Nice rocks glass.
Thanks, man. Nice travel case.
Nice blend topper.
Thank you. Nice candle.
Nice bottle bag.
Thanks, man. That's a nice tumbler.
Nice woman's t-shirt.
Oh, thanks. Nice extra schmedium shirt. Get yourself some nice things and get all the compliments that come along with it. Shop bourbonrealtalk.com.
So from the Wild Turkey lineup, you've got the lowest level. It is the Wild Turkey 81 proof. Mm-hmm. It's non-age stated, but there's some marketing materials for the Wild Turkey brand that say that they're not going to put anything in there that's less than 5 years old. Mm-hmm. But it is conspicuously missing from the 81 proof marketing material. It only says that on the 101 version of Wild Turkey. So we really have no idea how old it is, but it is a straight, and it's non-age stated, so it has to be at least 4 years old.
Yeah.
4 years old, not because it's a straight, okay? You can have a 2-year-old straight, but you have to have an age statement. So if you have no age statement, it's got to be 4 years old.
Yeah, and like you said, it's 81 proof. It's probably what you've seen most, your whole life. When you think of Wild Turkey, you think of that bottle. 81 proof, MSRP is like $16.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, for me, you just jump up there to that $20 mark and I'm grabbing a 101. But hey, to each their own.
And as he mentioned, 101, a little bit more money, virtually the same product. On the website, it does say 6 to 8 years of aging. It's 101 proof, hence the name. And the MSRP is $24.49 in our market. But if you get the larger handle, the price per 750 does go down just below $20. So a lot of people like that one.
Yeah. And I mean, next up, you step up a notch from there, and you've got the all right, the Long Branch from the famous Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah,
it's got that mesquite charcoal filtered flavor and profile to it, but it is a step up there. And I mean, maybe it's part celeb recognition, but I mean, I don't say it's a bad pour.
No,
I've had it a few times, and I would sip on it.
So yes, that one is around an 8-year product according to the website. It is only 86 proof, but for the price point, the MSRP is $33.99, and that's not bad. No. So that's an interesting product.
And with that, it's a little bit different profile on it as far as the palate goes, because it's a little bit different. It would make a great mixer because it does add a little bit different flavor to it than your 81 proof Wild Turkey that we mentioned before. So.
Sure.
What about next? What are we going? Kentucky Spirit?
Kentucky Spirit.
All right.
So Kentucky Spirit is interesting. It is at least 8 years old according to the website, but it's 101 proof. So it's like, okay, well, if the 101 is 6 to 8 years, what's the difference between the Kentucky Spirit?
Right, yeah.
And it is that it is a single barrel product. And so presumably they're barrel selected to match this Kentucky Spirit profile. And I assume that when they find a barrel that they think has slightly, better flavor characteristics, that they would use it for Kentucky Spirit instead of a batch of 101.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because I was wondering the exact same thing. If you've got two products similar in age, one 101, the other one 101, single barrel makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like it. It's good stuff.
So the only downside with the Kentucky Spirit is you get quite a bit of a jump in price. So yeah, it's a single barrel, but it's priced at $59.99. Yeah. So
I've been seeing a lot of those on the shelf lately.
Well, that's an interesting thing. I haven't seen any for years, and then once they drop, they hit everywhere, and everyone's got it.
Yeah. Well, that next one we just mentioned there, same bottle apparently as the Kentucky Spirit. And one of my favorites on this list is the Rare Breed.
Rare Breed.
They got the barrel proof on the rye and the bourbon. But for this list, we're talking bourbons. We're talking this bourbon Mashbill. It's a 6 to 8 year, according to the website. And it's a barrel proof again. Even with that MSRP of just under $50, I think $48.49. This one, we did a blind not too long ago. You can flip back in our episodes, and it was up there at the top for me.
Yeah,
right under Stag Junior, I think that day. So
yeah, I think a number of people like that one.
I love it.
So now we're going to transfer from the Wild Turkey brands to the Russell's brand. Still the same mash bill. Okay, so the first one we'll talk about is the 10-year. And this is the one that is the easiest to find.
Yeah.
It is 10-year age stated on the label. Only 90 proof, but still a solid proof. And with an MSRP of $33.99, not a bad buy.
No, not at all. And there are a select group of shelf available, really extremely affordable 10-year bourbons out there. Eagle Rare is one of them, and Russell's 10 is right up there with it for me, in my opinion, as far as something you're going to see on the shelf. 10 years old, a little bit lower proof at 90, but hey, that's still a great buy.
Yeah. Now, the one from the Russell's line that I think people are probably most excited about are the single barrel and the single barrel selects. So this, again, is a non-age dated product, but it's rumored to be around 9 years old. You can see how old they are whenever you get the single barrels because it tells you the barrel entry date and the dump date. And these are all 110 proof, which is a solid bump in proof. And that proof is actually influenced Wild Turkey's barrel entry proof. They want to use a low barrel entry proof because theoretically it produces more flavor in the inline product because they're not adding as much proofing water at the end. But they used to have a barrel entry proof that was 107. And because some of the lower levels of the warehouse would absorb moisture out of the air and the proof would drop, it would never get up to 110. So they couldn't turn it into a Russell's product.
Yeah.
Then they raised the proof, barrel entry proof to 110, and now they're up to 115, probably just so that they can supply whiskey for the Russell's brands.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
The MSRP on the regular single barrel that can be found on shelves is $48.49 for a product that's 9+ years old at that proof. I'm happy with that price.
Yeah.
The single barrel selects though, they've gone up quite a bit,
Right.
and they're up around $80.
Yeah. But still, hard to turn it down when you see one at the store.
Yeah.
It's just so dang good.
Especially if you know the tasting team that picked it and they've got good palates.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. Moving up in years and up in proof, we're at the Russell's 13, right? This is that blue label Russell's that you've probably seen maybe on the internet, but hard to see in person a lot of times.
Yeah.
Not super available at the stores. The secondary prices have skyrocketed. But if you do see one at the stores, it should be that MSRP of $99.99. So don't fall for that junk out there.
Yeah.
You see those price gougers.
Price gougers.
The MSRP is just $100, which I would pay that all day. I'd probably buy 10. you
Yeah.
know? It is 114.8 proof. Again, 13 years. And I don't know if there's a better Russell's out there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
This one was one that when it first released, no one knew how hard it was going to be to find. And one of my friends bought one, brought it over that day. Everyone loved it. We drank like half the bottle. And then later we found out like this is unobtainium. Like,
Right. And we're like, dang it.
But Russell's also does some special releases too. There was the 1998, 2002, 2003. And so those are very interesting pours. Many of those are a little too oaky for me.
Yeah.
Wild Turkey's one of those, like Wild Turkey Russell's, one of those that when you start to get up above 12 years old, it gets a little bit sketchy for me as whether or not it's a little too oaky.
Yeah. And that's why I was impressed with the 13, because I still think it has a great flavor profile.
Yeah, it's very well
Which
balanced.
is, yes, exactly.
So in addition to Russell's, they have another line called Master's Keep, and those are special releases. They usually do one per year. The last couple of years, they've done 2 different 17-year.
Yeah.
One that was a bottle and bond, one that was 86 proof or something. They've done decades and a few other things. And as I mentioned earlier, the bourbon mash bill is also what they make their flavored whiskeys with. So they have the flavored American honey and the flavored American honey sting. So those are all that same mash bill.
Stingy. Yes, I may or may not have partaken in flavored whiskeys such as this back in my day of college.
Yeah, they don't taste bad.
They don't taste bad, but they will leave you with one heck of a hangover.
Might be those artificial sweeteners.
Yeah. So what do you say we jump into the rye mash bill?
Let's
Randall?
do it. Let's
All
do
right.
it.
Now, this rye mash bill, again, not a big rye guy, but these are some ryes that I typically will sip on because it's that 51% rye, 37% corn, and then you still have the 12% malted barley. So again, not a huge high rye mash bill, which is great for some of us who are just trying to either get used to that rye spice or just have found out over time that you just don't care for it as much as you do those bourbon flavors.
There's basically 2 styles. There's Kentucky style, which is what we call barely legal rye. If it was 1% less, it wouldn't be a rye whiskey.
Yep.
And then you have like the Pennsylvania style, Maryland style rye, which is typically 80+% rye. And this is the mash bill that they make the Wild Turkey rye, the Rare Breed small batch, the Russell's Reserve, and the Master's Keep ryes are all from this same 51% rye mash bill.
Yeah, which again, like I would say, the Rare Breed rye is probably one of my favorite ryes on the shelf as far as shelf available ryes that I've had. Again, that's just me. But if you are one of those people just trying to either get into ryes or have found out that you just don't care for the high spice, try that Rare Breed rye. It's a barrel proof. It's still great whiskey, and it'll help you get used to that spice.
Sure. So just like with the bourbon, they have an 81 proof rye, Wild Turkey. The website says it's aged at least 4 years. And just so you know, typically ryes don't need to age for as much time to develop their flavors. And it is also an 81 proof product. And the MSRP for that is $17.99.
That's not bad. I mean, but if you're going to go ahead and spend that kind of money on a good rye, you might as well consider the 101 as well, because it's still at 4 year, but the MSRP is just a few bucks higher at $22.99, and you get 101 proof out of the deal. So if you're a high proof person and you would tend to either mix with that, or you want something that has that higher flavor profile, then that step up to the 101 is where it's at.
That's where I'd recommend it.
Taking that next step, we're going back to the barrel proof of the Rare Breed rye. It's a 4, 6, 8 year according to the website. MSRP is just $48.49. And for a lot of people like myself, Randy included, we love old fashions, right? We love a good craft old fashioned. And a lot of great old fashions are made with a high proof rye, and this would be a great option for an old fashioned. So if you have this at home, try to mix yourself up an old fashioned with that bad boy and see what you do with that, because you're gonna absolutely love it. And if you don't, you can hate me in the comments.
So now we move over to the Russell's line of ryes. There is a shelf available Russell's rye that is a 6 year. It states it on the label. It is also 90 proof, and the MSRP is $41.49. So you notice the price is a little bit higher on the ryes.
Yeah.
Just so everybody knows, it's way more expensive to make rye. The grain costs more. The production process is much more difficult. It gums up. The cleaning of the equipment takes more labor. And so just understand, if the price is a little bit more, that's probably why. But that is a solid product, and you can always find it on shelves.
Absolutely. And just like the Bourbon Mash Bill, you've got the single barrel versions of those as well. They're non-age stated, and they're the 104 proof. Those MSRP, again, a little bit higher, $59.99. But if you see a Russell's Reserve single barrel out there rye, I mean, I don't even know that I've seen one on a shelf before, personally, but I'm not usually looking for them either.
So just like on the bourbon side, they've got the annual release of Master's Keep, and they have done a Master's Keep rye with this mash bill. It's called Cornerstone.
Yeah.
It's 9 to 11 years old, according to the website, all the barrels that went into that batch. 109 proof, and the MSRP was around $175, so a little bit higher up there. But yeah, that's everything that they make with the rye mash bill.
In conclusion, though, one thing that I'm amazed of is this brand. I consider them to be one of the heavy hitters, like with the big dogs, the Beams, the Buffalo Traces, the Maker's Marks, all those core Kentucky distilleries you think of. They've just got the 2 mash bills. So to be able to come up with such a great offering at great prices, good proof points, is impressive to start with. Now, when you start to think about what is the best value bourbon on the market, it'd be hard to argue with what Wild Turkey 101.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at their pricing, and you've got the Russell's Reserve single barrels at $79.99, they are almost the same age as a Wild Turkey 101.
Right.
And the proof difference is only 4.5% ABV, right? You're going from 101 to 110, but the price is going from $22.49 to $79.99.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue that Wild Turkey 101 is not the best value in whiskey. So let's talk about the show philosophy.
Let's do it.
So if you're new to this channel, one, we want to thank you for the view. But we also want to let you know that we're about more than just drinking brown spirits. We want to bring people together around bourbon. And that's something that's important to me, because I lost a loved one to suicide in 2014. And in the aftermath, and trying to figure out why all this stuff happened, and realizing that my brother probably felt very alone, and probably felt like he was going to be a burden to those in his life in the future, and not having that community and connection around him, I wanted to find ways to help people find community and connection. And I saw it in whiskey. And so that's part of the reason why I started this podcast, because I figure if I can get you connected to bourbon, bourbon will do the rest of the job and get you connected to others, so you don't feel that void that my brother felt.
Yeah.
But we also ended up starting Bourbon Real Talk Community on your recommendation. And that's a troll-free environment where you can form those kinds of connections and have discussion in a forum about whiskey without fear of being attacked by a troll.
Mm-hmm.
And those trolls, they kind of influenced me another way. And that was, I saw them being hateful to strangers online. And it made me realize, if the trolls can hate a stranger online, there's nothing that keeps me from loving a stranger online. And that's why we end the podcast the same way. And that's this.
Yeah.
If you woke up this morning and you're unsure whether or not anyone loved you, just know that we love you. We'll see you next time on Bourbon Real Talk.
But it's 114 proof, 0.8. 114. Woo. All right.
Get it.
So if you do see one, that's a great pickup. Mm-hmm. Pick up. I don't know why I said it that way.
Pick up.
That's a great pickup.
It's a pick up.
Bernard.
Yeah. Oh, let's.
I definitely can't read this.
Yeah. I know.
I too towel. Or what are we gonna do?
Well, we're talking about all the different mash bills.
How many do they have?
I don't remember. I think it's just the rye and the bourbon. We're about to shoot this video. How many mash bills they go? I don't know.
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
It's in the script.
It's in the script.
It's in there. All right.